At 10, a small town in western North Carolina has more questions than answers tonight. They're asking why, after learning a major employer will soon shut down. This week, Pactiv Evergreen announced it would close its Canton Paper Mill this summer. 1,300 jobs will be lost. Fox Carolina's Zach Proletsky was in Canton today. He talked to town leaders and neighbors there.
Tori, shock, sadness, anger, and heartbreak. Those are just some of the common feelings people in Canton tell me they've been feeling this week.
The mill closure and the actions to close the mill have sacrificed our soul.
Thank you all so much for coming out tonight.
In the shadow of the Canton Paper Mill that stood for generations, hundreds tried to make sense of the news that it will close.
It's a great shock to me. Its mill's been here for well over 100 years, and I'm third generation that retired from this paper mill in my family.
Terry Meese worked at the paper mill for 43 years before retiring in 2014.
There was a lot of camaraderie because the majority of people that works in the paper mill were local, people I went to school with, grew up with.
Meese still has family and friends who work inside these walls.
These workers are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are families.
Canton Mayor Zeb Smather says the last few days have been spent trying to support the workers. A joint information center has already been established to help with reemployment, job training, and mental health services.
It's very important to me that we find jobs for these workers, if all possible, that allow them not to leave their home. We cannot have a migration of workers and people out of Haywood County.
The last few years have hit Canton hard, from the pandemic to devastating flooding, and now the closure of its biggest employer.
It's going to take a lot of grit and grace the next few days, weeks, months, years to recover, but these are tough people.
The people around here will persevere.
Now, in a statement, Pactiv Evergreen says it, quote, assesses all the changes to the business with considerable thought for its employees, customers, shareholders, and communities, and do not take these decisions lightly. Tori?
Well, in the wake of the announcement, some company leaders sold some of their stocks in the company just days before plans to close that Canton mill before it became public. So here's what we learned from public documents filed to the Security and Exchange Commission. Several leaders at Pactiv Evergreen sold shares, including the president and CEO, the chief legal officer, the chief operations officer, and the president of beverage merchandising. In total, 58,788 shares were sold at a price of $11.30 each. We asked the mayor of Canton about this new information.
Just hearing about this and seeing it is morally reprehensible. Again, I do not know if it's legal or illegal, but it's cowardly, it's disgusting. Our community deserves better. How many years and generations have people put into that mill, some of them giving their lives? And now we have to hear that the top is making money while they've wreaked economic disaster by closing this mill.
We reached out to Pactiv Evergreen about this. A spokesperson tells us, quote, the sales that were reported in our SEC filings on Monday were sales automatically done by the company to cover legally required tax withholding and were not discretionary sales made by the executives. They were scheduled in advance. Of course, we'll continue to follow this story closely as it develops.